So, this happened last night, and I can't stop thinking about it. My husband, Jake, invited his old friend, Mark, to stay the night. They'd known each other since college but hadn't seen each other in years. Mark was passing through town, and my husband was excited to catch up. I didn't mind. Mark had always seemed like a nice enough guy the few times I'd met him before. The evening started out fine. They had drinks, reminisced about their wild college days, and laughed over old stories. I hung out with them for a bit before heading to bed early, since I had work the next morning. As I was falling asleep, I could still hear them chatting in the living room, their voices growing softer as time went on. Eventually, everything went quiet. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up feeling thirsty. I got out of bed and tiptoed to the kitchen for a glass of water. That's when I noticed the lights were still on in the living room. I figured maybe they had just fallen asleep with the TV on, but when I peeked inside, my stomach dropped. My husband was completely knocked out on the couch, but Mark was still awake, just sitting there in the armchair, staring into space. He wasn't looking at the TV, he wasn't looking at his phone. He was just sitting, completely still. His eyes were open, but there was something unsettling about them. I hesitated, not sure if I should say something. Maybe he was just in deep thought, but the way he was sitting so rigid, so unnaturally still made me uncomfortable. I awkwardly cleared my throat to get his attention. Nothing. He didn't flinch. Finally, I whispered, "Hey, Mark, everything okay?" Slowly, almost too slowly, he turned his head to look at me. His expression was blank, not sleepy, not drunk, just empty. After what felt like forever, he finally muttered, "Can't sleep." His voice was flat, emotionless. Something about it sent a chill down my spine. I forced an awkward laugh and said, "Yeah, sometimes that happens." He didn't respond. He just kept staring at me for a few seconds, before turning his head back to the same fixed point in the room. I stood there for a second, debating whether to ask him if he needed anything, but my gut told me to just go back to bed. I barely slept after that. Every creak in the house made me uneasy. I kept imagining Mark just standing outside our bedroom door, staring at it. I told myself I was being paranoid, but something about the whole thing just felt wrong. In the morning, Mark was completely normal again. He was cheerful, chatting about how great it was to catch up, acting like nothing weird had happened. My husband didn't notice anything off and just laughed when I mentioned that Mark had been awake in the middle of the night. Mark left after breakfast, and everything went back to normal. But I can't shake this uneasy feeling. What was he thinking about last night? Why was he just sitting there like that? And why did I feel so